Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of ADMAIL. This is Adam Bergman, founder and CEO of IRA Financial. I'm here to help you find the answers to the most frequently asked questions from my clients about self-directed retirement accounts. If you want to learn more, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Just search IRA Financial. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of ADMAIL. I'm Adam Bergman, tax attorney and founder of IRA Financial. And on today's episode is from Julie K. of Mountain View, California. And Julia K, I should say. Julia wants to know, can I donate my IRA cryptos to Ukraine or the people of Ukraine? So great question. I've gotten a lot of these questions over the last 3-4 weeks since the incident in Ukraine involving Russia has transpired. There's been a lot of people wanting to send money, even IRA-owned cryptos, IRA-owned assets to the people of Ukraine. So the question is, can you do it? So the answer, like I kind of do always, sorry, it's my training as a lawyer, yes and no. So these are the IRS rules for making charitable donations using an IRA. If you're over 70 and a half, you can do up to $100,000 directly from your IRA to a charity. That is non-taxable. So it's like a required minimum distribution. It covers up to 100K of an RMD. Even though the RMD age is 72, this rule is still 70 and a half for some reason. They'll probably change it to 72 to reflect the new RMD rules. But essentially, if once you're over 70 and a half, you can send up to 100K a year to a designated US charity, 501c3, and it's not taxable. You don't have to take a distribution and pay tax on it. And it also up to 100K satisfy any RMD for the year. So that's a nice thing because you don't have to pay tax and you can just allocate it directly to a charity. But if you're under 70 and a half and you want to send IRA money to a charity, it's kind of difficult and very tax inefficient. You essentially have to take a taxable distribution. So if it's a pre-tax IRA, tax. If you're under 59 and a half, tax and a 10% penalty. And then make a personal charitable contribution to the charity. So you get a tax deduction on that end. You're going to be paying tax on the IRA end. So it should be a net tax neutral, I should say, transaction. But if you're under 59 and a half, that 10% penalty, will add additional tax to the scenario. So not as tax efficient because you still have to pay tax on the taxable distribution. If you have a Roth and you're over 59 and a half, the Roth's been open at least 5 years, that works. You can pull it out tax-free and just send the money to a charity, 501c3 that helps Ukraine. So the distinction from the IRA standpoint is if you're over or under 70 and a half, and then the rules follow suit. Now, should you donate out of the IRA? Listen, it's a great thing that you want to give money to charities, whatever your cause is. But it's probably more tax efficient to do it with personal funds. Why? Because you get a tax deduction, number one, straight away. And you don't have to take a taxable distribution if you're under 70 and a half. And if you're under 59 and a half plus 10%. So it's much cleaner. It's just a tax deduction. You don't have to pay corresponding tax on the distribution. Plus, when you raid your IRA, you basically are reducing the amount of potential tax deferral, compounding returns that could be generated in that IRA. One other wrinkle I'll throw at you. You should make sure the charity is US based, 501c3. Can you give money to a foreign charity? Yeah, but you may not get a tax deduction if it's not a 501c3. And you can ask the charity to provide evidence that they are a 501c3. Plus, if they're a foreign charity, they're not under the jurisdiction of the IRS, so they're not regulated. You're less clear if they are actually going to be doing what they say they're doing from an exempt purpose standpoint. So you may be donating money to a foreign charity who says they're going to help the people of Ukraine, but maybe it's going into someone's pocket. Whereas if it's a US charity, it's less likely because the IRS has to provide tax exempt status. There's a 990 tax return that's filed each year, and there's oversight by the IRS into these charities in terms of audits to make sure that they're actually pursuing their exempt purpose. So number one, I would not use your IRA. If you are over 70 and a half, it could work. You have up to 100K and you can satisfy the RMD and not pay tax on the distribution. But if you're under 70 and a half, especially if you're under 59 and a half, I would not do it. I would use personal funds. And then if you want to help the people of Ukraine, I consider donating to a U.S. charity. A lot of U.S. charities are now going to be sending money to Ukraine. So I would go through a U.S. charity that's 501c3. Number one, you get the tax deduction. Number two, you probably have more comfort that the money will be going to where you think it will be going. Now, can you just donate IRA money or cryptos or other assets to a foreign charity? Yeah, you could. You're not going to get a deduction, assuming there's no prohibited transaction rules, there's no disqualified person issues, you don't run that charity. Yeah, you can do it, but it's basically just gone, right? It's like you threw your money into the ocean. You're not going to see it again. Yeah, it's commendable that you want to do such a nice thing. And it could be something that's dear to your heart and important, but you may want to use personal funds because at least you get a tax deduction, or even if it's not tax deductible because it's going to a foreign charity, at least you're not losing or rating your IRA and losing the power of deferral and compounding returns because you're using taxable income instead of tax deferred or tax-free assets in the case of the Roth. So Julia, it's commendable to want to give money to the people of Ukraine, but try not to tap in or raid your IRA if you could. If you can't, if you're over 70 and a half, that could work. You can give up to 100K. If you're under 70 and a half, be careful. If you're under 59 and a half, it's not going to be a tax neutral transaction. You're going to be down from a tax standpoint because you're going to be paying additional tax compared to any corresponding tax deduction you would get from that contribution. But anyway, great questions. Today, just to recap, does the new DOL release on cryptos impact IRAs? No, IRAs are not mentioned in the DOL. Number two, the W-9 and the self-directed IRA LLC. Remember, if it's a single member LLC, you would put on line one the name of the IRA. If it's a multiple member LLC, on line one is the name of the LLC. And then giving money out of your IRA to Ukraine, be cautious. If you're over 70 and a half, you can do it out of the IRA. Under 70 and a half, try to watch out. Could be a tax problem. And then also try to donate to a U.S. charity that's regulated by the IRS, a 501c3. Not only get a tax deduction, but probably a little more comfort that the money will go to where it should go. So thank you for all the participants that sent in questions. If you have questions and you're shy, you can do it anonymously. Don't worry. Send it to info@IRA Financial. You can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So love to hear from you guys and really have really great questions in the queue. So going to be some really good episodes coming up. So don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I will talk to everyone again next week.